You know, some events just create this clear dividing line in history. There's a before, and then there's an after. The assassination of President John F. Kennedy is absolutely one of those moments. But over the decades, the real core facts of that day have gotten tangled up in just countless theories. So in this explainer, we're going to cut through all that noise. We're just going to focus on the foundational, undisputed events of November 22nd, 1963. And this is it. This is the brutal, central fact that everything else revolves around. On a sunny Friday in Dallas, Texas, the 35th President of the United States was killed, right out in the open in front of the whole world. I mean, this wasn't some hidden act. It was a public execution that sent shockwaves across the globe and completely changed the course of American history in a flash.
So to really get a grip on what happened, we need to go back to that day. Let's start by setting the scene for this national tragedy. The place was Dealey Plaza, a really busy downtown spot in Dallas. This wasn't some secluded, out-of-the-way event. It was a public motorcade. It was actually part of a political trip meant to connect the president with the people of Texas before the next election. Just try to picture the scene, right? The president is riding in an open-top limousine. He's waving to these cheering crowds who are just feet away. It was this perfect picture of accessibility, of celebration, that in just a matter of seconds would turn into absolute, total chaos.
And out of that chaos, one medical fact is completely undisputed. Two shots. Two shots struck President Kennedy. The first one hit him in the neck. The second, and this is the tragic part, was the fatal shot to his head. The events of that afternoon just unfolded with terrifying speed. Let's walk through the timeline, because it really shows how quickly the nation went from celebration to crisis, from that first shot to the transfer of power. Okay, so at 12:30 p.m., the shots ring out. Just 30 minutes later, 30 minutes! At Parkland Memorial Hospital, the president was pronounced dead. Then, in this moment of just incredible historic gravity, a little over 2 hours after the attack, Vice President Lyndon B. Johnson was sworn in as the 36th president right there on Air Force One, before it even left Dallas. That swift, decisive transfer of power was so crucial to show the world that the U.S. government was stable even while the nation was just reeling from the shock. So, with a new president sworn in, all of the nation's grief and shock started to turn into one single burning question. Who did this? Let's take a look at the immediate aftermath and the man who quickly became the center of the entire investigation. Well, authorities moved fast, and they identified a suspect, Lee Harvey Oswald. He was a former Marine who was arrested later that afternoon. This was the man who was supposed to stand trial, the man who held the answers that a grieving nation so desperately needed. But the nation would never get those answers in a courtroom. Just 2 days after the assassination, while he was being transferred from police headquarters, Lee Harvey Oswald was himself shot and killed on live television. The alleged assassin would never face a jury, a trial could never happen. And this one single shocking event is the main reason why so many questions about that day will just forever linger.
The assassination was so much more than the death of a president. It was a profound turning point for the whole country. So let's explore the lasting impact of that day and how it really did change everything.
The reaction was immediate, and it was immense. You have to understand, this wasn't just an American tragedy. It was a global one. From London to Moscow, the world just stopped. The news triggered this unprecedented outpouring of public grief, with people gathering in the streets, in their homes, completely united in disbelief and sorrow.
The consequences were profound, and they were immediate. America had a new president trying to steer it through a crisis, and the nation was plunged into this period of deep mourning. But beyond the emotional shock, the assassination led to permanent, real-world changes. It pretty much marked the end of an era of accessibility for our leaders and led to a complete overhaul of presidential security, creating that highly protected bubble that we're so familiar with today.
And that brings us to the core dilemma of the Kennedy assassination. Because Lee Harvey Oswald was killed before he could ever stand trial, the official story was never really tested in a courtroom. Evidence was never cross-examined, a verdict was never reached, and it leaves us with this fundamental question that has echoed through the decades since. When justice can't be served, who gets to write the final version of history?